Okay guys, I'm here today with John Danaher, huge honor for me as always, and Giancarlo. And guys, today John is gonna show us here like the complete skills for the Jiu-Jitsu standing game. And we are shooting here the volume 3 of the Feet to Floor, which is the last volume, right John?
Yes.
Of this amazing series that he's doing all about the standing game for Jiu-Jitsu. And it's coming out really, really good. So today we're gonna see here all about the complete skills that the Jiu-Jitsu fighter should have in the standing game. Can you explain a little more, John?
Yeah, sure. I've always said that the two most obvious weaknesses with the sport of Jiu-Jitsu were always historically leg locks and standing game. Jiu-Jitsu has made incredible progress over the last decade with leg locks. I no longer believe that's a weakness in our game, but there's still a lot of work to be done in the standing position. And I believe part of the reason, that it's a complex story, but part of the reason why Jiu-Jitsu struggles in the standing position is because people have a very incomplete idea of what it would mean to have a standing game in the sport of Jiu-Jitsu. When you ask the average person, hey man, get some skills in the standing position, what are they going to say? Learn some takedowns, okay? But there's so much more to the standing position than just learning a few random takedowns. It's a complete part of the game that needs, just like leg locking, needed to be revamped from the ground up and built up to become something serious. So too with the standing situation. Let's run through this, putting it in the context of the 3 parts to the Feet to Floor series. In the first volume of Feet to Floor, we focused on what we call preliminary skills. The skills that if you don't have, none of the other standing skills are going to work. So for example, you'll see guys come out and they'll say, okay, learn a takedown. Well, you're not going to throw anyone with any form of takedown until you learn how to make effective grips, stand in an effective stance, generate motion in the standing position, get to a strong throwing position, exhibit strong gripping skills, etc., etc. So we looked in volume 1 at the idea of gripping strategies, where we got to grips where we had a greater degree of control over our opponent than he had over us. And as a result, in situations like this, now with me having stronger grips on him than he has on me, we're in a position where we can start going through and knocking people down to the floor, as opposed to situations where we have the same grip on each other, where he has just as good of a chance of throwing me as I have of throwing him. Then that was our first skill, these preliminary skills. We covered that in volume 1. We also looked at the idea that most people associate with the standing position. These are so-called front takedowns. Okay. In Jiu-Jitsu, we have to make a distinction between takedowns that we perform when we're in front of people versus takedowns that we perform when we're behind people. Okay. In other grappling styles, such as judo, takedowns done from behind people aren't even part of the curriculum. They don't even score because you have to throw people on their back. But in Jiu-Jitsu, you get the same score for front takedowns and back takedowns. Our students have to learn both. So in front takedowns, that's any takedown where we're standing directly in front of people, and the basic division would be between takedowns where we knock someone backwards or throw them forwards. So for example, Kouchigari would be a good example of a front takedown where it comes on and drive them down in a backwards direction. Say Nagi would be a good example of a takedown where if we go operating from a situation where I throw to the front and drive our man down to the floor. Those would be good examples of throwing someone forward with Seanagi and knocking them backwards with Kouchi. Now, when we're behind people, we could, for example, work with reverse Diashi Harai. We get a man moving in a situation, and from here, we knock him down with Diashi from the back. So those would be examples of takedowns performed when we're behind people. So those are the first 3 skills that we have to work with. We covered these in volume 1 of Feet to Floor. As we got into volume 2, we started to look at front takedowns that are unusually well suited to the sport of Jiu-Jitsu. We put our primary focus on takedowns that involve the use of our feet to knock people down. So for example, we looked at the idea of Osotogari, of Ouchigari, of Kouchigari, and of Kosotogari, not throwing down like so, okay? We also looked at some of the finest takedowns that involve sacrificing our body to the floor, like Tomoe Nage, where I come in like a training partner and knock them down like so. Now, that was volume 1 and volume 2. Now things get really interesting with volume 3. because that's where we start to look at skills that are truly unique to the sport of jiu-jitsu, that take you well outside of wrestling, judo, etc., etc. And I'm very excited about this. I know that many of the unique standing skills of jiu-jitsu get a lot of flack. Like people identify guard pulling as one of the most embarrassing parts of jiu-jitsu. Like, oh, guard pulling, that's such a cop out. I don't see it that way at all. In volume 3, we start to look at these unusual or unique skills of the sport of jiu-jitsu. Let's look, for example, at 2 skills which are often referred to as mat returns. Okay, normally in a takedown, we start standing and then we take the guy to the floor. But in jiu-jitsu, because there's so little referee intervention, normally once the match starts, there's very little in the way of referee intervention compared with judo and wrestling. There's a lot of mat returns where your opponent goes to stand up and you have to keep him back down on the floor. You have to take him, in other words, the takedown is initiated on the floor rather than the standing position. You start floor and then progress up and put him back down, as opposed to a standing takedown, you both start in the standing situation. Now, mat returns are definitely part of the American style of wrestling, but only when you're behind people. In jiu-jitsu, you got to do mat returns when people are in front of you, operating in guard position. There's no guard position in wrestling, obviously. So normally when people talk about mat returns, they'll talk about situations where we're here behind people, working like so. And jiu-jitsu players have to be competent in this idea of returning someone to the mat. If my training partner goes to stand up on me in situations like this, I have to be able to work effectively here. Okay, I should be able to, in these circumstances, be able to return my training partner straight down to the floor and make sure that having put him down, I can keep him down. It doesn't count for much in the sport of jiu-jitsu if I take someone down and just keep standing up on me. I want to be able to assert my ground game. So mat returns in jiu-jitsu become very important, just as they do in the American styles of wrestling. That takedown would score 0 in the sport of judo because you don't throw them.
Yeah, I love how we were covering this part, John, because as you just said, like judo, wrestling, they don't score so much from those positions. So, and we tend to learn judo and wrestling from them. So it's completely different rules.
Yeah.
So.
And that's why it's so important that jiu-jitsu players start to see that the standing game of jiu-jitsu is significantly different.
For jiu-jitsu.
Yes, there is some overlap with wrestling and judo. We're the first ones to say that. And yes, I think it's a great thing to study these arts, but it has to be modified for the rules in which we work. Now there's a whole category of mat returns that simply don't occur in wrestling and jiu-jitsu. These are front mat returns, where we have a guy operating from open guard, for example. This position doesn't even exist in wrestling. This would be a disaster in wrestling. In situations like this, if he goes to stand up on me with a hip I took him down, but I couldn't hold him down. That's no good. I've got to keep him on the floor. So in situations like this, we might work with collar and cuff, just like so. So as my man stands up, he finds himself in a situation where I control the head through the lapel and the extremities of the leg, and like so. As I misdirect to my right, I get him out of balance. He goes to compensate, comes up the other way, and we get a nice mat return from the front to put him down. Very simple skill, but very important skill. So mat returns from both front and back, especially the front mat returns, are very unique to the sport of jiu-jitsu. These are skills that people have to start learning. Now, the big one, guard pulls. Okay, traditionally, guard pulls in jiu-jitsu tend to get taught as something of a desperation move. It's like, okay, I have no standing skills, so I'm going to pull guard. No. A big part of volume 3 of Feet to Floor is to completely change our philosophy of pulling guard, to see pulling guard as an offensive move. Think about it this way. In jiu-jitsu, a takedown scores how much? 2 points. How much is a guard sweep score? 2 points. So if I can pull guard directly into a sweep, I get the same points I would get if I took them down. Okay. When most people pull guard, it's done in a very passive kind of fashion. You'll see this all day. Okay. 0 chance of me scoring points on this guy. Okay. What if I change my approach? What if we worked with a grip like so? I pull my man in and I step directly into Ashigarami. off that ashigarami, he could get an action reaction, put him down, and we score.
Yep.
Okay. The amount of time it took me to pull guard and sweep was pretty much the same amount of time as it would to take someone down. Okay. In this way, you can look upon pulling guard as a means of scoring, an aggressive means of scoring, rather than a passive means of avoiding getting scored upon.
Yep.
Most people see guard pulling as just a means to avoid getting scored on. He's better at takedowns than I am, I'll pull guard so he doesn't score on me.
I agree.
As opposed to, let me go out, pull guard on this fellow in a way where I score 2 points, same way I would as if I actually took him down. Another way we could operate, instead of pulling directly into a sweep, would be to pull to some form of advantage. If I pull guard in the usual fashion, there's no sense of advantage here. I've pulled him into a neutral position. Okay, there's good things he can do, there's good things I can do. Okay, but what if I took this guy completely out of balance, forced his hands to the mat, and took his hips far over my head? He would be in a situation where he couldn't initiate guard passing, and I would have the advantage of an extended out of position body. And from that, we could go directly into scores. So for example, if we come out and establish hooks to each other in here, if I take my man down and get him extended in this position, it's going to be pretty easy on this extended, vulnerable opponent to go into a whole host of moves where right from that initial guard pull, we pull him into such a vulnerable position that the sweeps come easy.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to teach a whole bunch of sweeps that come directly out of the guard pull.
Yep.
And once again, we're going to get a new generation of guard pullers who are going out and aggressively pulling guard and scoring from the guard pull,
Yep.
as opposed to just passively going out, making minimal contact and pulling to a neutral position. So we're going to hopefully change people's approach to pulling guard and change the philosophy of pulling guard as a means of avoiding getting scored on to a means of positively scoring on an opponent. I believe that could really change the standing game of the sport.
Joe, I think it's great that you're doing that, because I think every time someone goes purchase one takedown jiu-jitsu course, they expect that they will only learn takedowns. So you are also covering the entire pulling guard
Yes.
part. So that's great.
Now, let's be honest, Bernardo. When you go into a competition in jiu-jitsu, for every time you see a takedown, you'll see 100 guard pulls.
I agree.
Okay, so
way more guard pulls than
people can complain all they want. Or guard pulls are for cowards or this or that. The reality is, you go into a competition, that's what you're going to be dealing with.
Especially for the lighter guys.
Absolutely. You rarely see takedowns in the lightweight divisions. I would say about 80% of takedowns occur in 200 pounds and above in jiu-jitsu. So it's very, very important that people be able to deal with this, either because their opponents are doing it, or if they want to do it, use it as a means to score rather than a way to avoid being scored upon. Let's make guard pulling an aggressive part of proactive point scoring jiu-jitsu rather than just this negative way of avoiding contact.
Oh, Joe, and you're also covering when they pull guard on you, right?
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest, the most common scenario in the standing position in jiu-jitsu is the other guy pulls guard. Okay? If he comes out and establishes contact, and I just sit here, he pulls guard, and now we just play neutral, I've lost a golden opportunity to score. The truth is, when someone goes to pull guard on you, there's some vulnerability. If, let's say, for example, he goes into a seated guard pull, okay? As he goes into a seated guard pull, there's going to be many opportunities for us to use that initial lack of contact to immediately go in and go into a scoring situation, okay? If he goes into a guard where he has two legs around me, if I can take my knee higher than his head, we're in a situation where we go straight through our training partner's legs off the guard pull. There's golden opportunities in that fleeting half second when someone goes to pull guard, we can use it to score. Okay, and so we get away from this lazy acceptance where he pulls guard and I just accept it and say, okay, well, now we're going to play the real game of jiu-jitsu. When they go to pull guard, there's separation between your bodies. There's so many opportunities. If I take, he goes to sit, and I take a foot around the outside, I've just gained an advantage position on this guy. As he goes to scramble and bring the legs in, we're going to get so many opportunities to run through and get to a score. We've got to change our attitude to pulling guard. Instead of one of acceptance, let's see it as an opportunity to go out there and score. I fully believe that if we get people thinking about both pulling guard and countering guard pulls, that first standing part of the match can become a very exciting part of jiu-jitsu. Instead of that horrible, boring situation we have now where you know what it's like. Guys come out. I mean, it's always exciting to see that. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about practicalities here too, fellas. You guys know very well from your competitive days, the mats in jiu-jitsu are pretty damn small.
Yep.
When a competitor goes outside those mats, in the majority of cases, they get stood back up. So in any competitive match, you might be asked to start standing position on multiple occasions per match.
Yep.
And if you have to fight 4 or 5 times in a day, that means that in a lot of competitive situations, you will have to start many times over the course of a day in the standing position. Yep. Now, will you always be able to hit takedowns? As the day goes by, you get more and more tired. You've got to conserve energy. You might get injured in your first match. In these cases, you have to be able to pull guard. Okay, and if you can do it in a proactive fashion where you're scoring points with a guard pull, or you're scoring off his guard pull, you're going to get ahead. But if your only option in the standing position is just takedowns and you're physically tired or you got injured in your first match, now what are you going to do? So we've got to start seeing guard pulling, instead of just criticizing it as cowardice or an admittance of defeat, we can start portraying it in a new light, provided people train in this fashion, as an exciting, proactive part of the sport where people are coming out and playing a positive attacking game through guard pulling and see it as just a different way of working together with their takedown game. Let's look at an example. Let's say, for example, at the start of the match, Giancarlo and I come out, and I have never seen him grapple before. He's never seen me grapple before. As we come out and work with each other in the standing position, I come through and I make a quick assessment of his game. And he's perhaps underestimated me here. He doesn't know who I am, okay? And I'm thinking, I'm seeing an opportunity here for a takedown, okay? And as I separate Giancarlo's feet, and I come on and punch you guard, we get a good score, and we knock him down. But in the hurly-burly of the action, we go out of bounds, okay? And as we continue, we go out of bounds, and the referee pulls us into the middle and stands us up. When we come out the second time, what do you think Giancarlo's going to be thinking? Oh shit, this guy's pretty good at takedowns.
Yep.
Okay, so he's probably thinking, let me pull guard this time. Okay? As we come out, I see Giancarlo sit down into guard position, and then right from here we go right to the top, and boom, we get in, we get a nice score. Yep. Now Giancarlo scrambles back in, he recovers guard, and we end up in a scramble situation, we go out of bounds a third time. Okay? As we get back up and the referee separates us, I've done a takedown, I've beaten his guard with the guard pull counter. Now he's thinking like, okay, what the hell's going to happen this time? Now I come out and I pull guard. He's thinking, oh, okay, I can't pull guard on this guy, he's going to counter me. I can't stand up with him. So he takes a very, very conservative gripping game. He's very, very bent over in his stance. And as a result, it's going to be harder for me to go into the conventional takedowns that we normally work with. So now I hit a guard pull. I come in, I sit, boom, Hashigurama. Now we get a pullback reaction, and we knock him down and get top position. In the space of 2 minutes, I've covered the skills of takedown, guard pull counter, and guard pull. What have I scored? A lot of points. Yep. I scored points for my takedown, I scored points for my guard bars, and I scored points for my standing guard sweep.
Yeah, makes it
this way, it's made a huge difference in the match. Yep. You've exhibited 3 exciting skills. You're effective in all three different ways. Your opponent's head is like, what the hell is going on? If I pull guard, I'm getting scored on. If he takes me down, I'm getting scored on. If he pulls guard on me, he scores on me.
Yeah, and I'm just picturing the opposite scenario. If the person doesn't have these standing skills, how different is the match, right? Because now he probably didn't pass a guard. If he pulled guard, he probably didn't pull to his favorite move, and he didn't get a takedown. So it's much harder to win.
I mean, there's a massive difference between the excitement value to a spectator audience, the satisfaction you would get as an athlete scoring in 3 different ways, in a proactive fashion. I mean, it's just a different approach to the standing game. Now, the next big skill that we want to look at is that of takedown counters. Everyone talks about takedowns in jiu-jitsu. No one ever says, hey, let's work takedown counters. Now, that's crazy, because the truth is in jiu-jitsu, takedowns only score 2 points. In the majority of cases, when someone commits to a takedown, I can expose their back. And if you can expose someone's back in jiu-jitsu, you can score 4 points.
Yeah, right.
So the potential for scoring with takedown counters is double what it is for takedowns.
And if I'm not wrong, back attacks is the position that has the highest submission
rate. So not only do you score more, you also go into the #1 finishing position in the sport. So let's say we've got an opponent in here. I could say to myself, well, he's better at takedowns than I am, so I'm just going to do this. Okay? Or I could take a much more aggressive stance, where I say, yep, I know he's good at takedowns. I couldn't take him down, but I can make it pretty damn hard for him to take me down. Okay? So when I come out, he comes out and gets his grip. I know this is his power hand. Okay? His power hand is what takes me forward and out of balance so he can throw me. So what if I came out and I said, I'm going to kill that power hand. I'm going to take his hand, I'm going to pin him and close to his body, put weight over it. I'm going to take his hand outside my body. When he goes to use that power hand now, it's a lot less effective. Now, he needs my second hand to complete the throw. I come through and I walk up like so. When he comes in with his hip, I come in and I meet him with my hip. So when he tries to bring that hip across in front, it's hard. I lower my belt. My belt is lower than his. I take my training partner's waist. When he goes to complete the throw, he needs to bring my right shoulder forward. So I strip the right arm back. The more he commits, the head comes down out of position, I throw him into the open space. And what have we got? Back explosion. Boom. We go straight in. Wherever we go from here, we're going to be looking pretty good. Okay? What did I just score, Bernardo? 4 points. Okay? Double what you can score for a takedown. It's a lot easier to defend a takedown than it is to perform a takedown. Instead of me just going, let me pull guard.
No, and I was just thinking here, John, for example, if you get the takedown, most of the time you are on your opponent's guard. So you got 2 points, and now you have to pass his guard. While when you do this, you score 4 and you're on his back.
And you start on his back. You're not starting on his open guard, you're starting on his back.
So you can almost assume here the counter attacks for takedowns is...
It's actually the dominant form of scoring. So we put a lot of emphasis in this video on takedown counters as a means of doubling your score and getting to the #1 finishing position in the sport. It's a way better approach than just sitting there and, oh, he's better than me in the same, so I'll just pull guard. No, take his back. It's so much better, okay? Now, we're also looking at the idea of standing submissions, okay? There's many ways to pull the, instead of just pulling guard, why not pull them directly into a submission hold, okay? What's more exciting, pulling guard or pulling the guy right into an armbar, a triangle, or a leg lock? Okay, let's say, for example, we've got a guy and he's damn good in the standing position, okay? What is he good at? He's good at throws, takedowns, okay? As he comes out to work in here, and we come when we play our grip game, let's say we got a hold down here, like so. Okay, I'm denying my second hand to me. He needs 2 hands on to throw me. Okay? What if I come and I play a one-handed game and fix up an initial grip on my man, excuse me, Bernardo, and then from here I come straight in.
That's amazing, John.
Okay? You've completely gone away from the conventional throw situation. You come up against a high-level judo player, he doesn't even know what a leg lock is. And now you've taken it from standing into a world where he's like, what the hell is going on?
Well, John, and this is the entire like Gary Tono's game, right? And even without the gi, which is even more impressive.
It's easy to do. It's much easier to pull someone into a knee bar than it is to throw with, say, Uchimata. Okay? The action of Uchimata and rolling knee bars is relatively the same. Now, Uchimata is a high-level, high-skilled throw. It takes a lot of skill. Okay? Rolling into a knee bar from here is a fairly low-level skill that anyone can learn in a short period of time. And yet, you know, which is more effective in jiu-jitsu? And Uchimata at best scores 2 points. This ends the match.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, which would you rather have?
Yeah.
And these are not difficult skills to learn, Bernardo.
Yeah, no, I agree, John.
People think, oh, you know, flying triangle is so difficult. Flying triangle is easy, man.
Yeah.
It's a flying guard pull done to the head instead of the waist. It's not difficult.
Yeah, and I can see these scrambles happen even more nowadays. Like IBJJF just made it free for heel hooks for no gi, so I think this type of scramble.
Yeah, absolutely, it's going to happen a lot more.
Yeah.
Now the 10th big skill that jiu-jitsu athletes have to learn, and this is unique to jiu-jitsu, Bernardo. In the sport of judo, if I fail with a throw, see this all the time. If I fail with a throw in judo and I come in, if I fail here, what do I do in the sport of judo? I go to a turtle position.
And no problems, right?
No problem whatsoever. What do? I wait for the referee.
Yeah.
The referee gives us 5 seconds. If my training partner tries to break me down to the mat, I just hold 5 seconds. He goes for a strangle. He's got to do something in 5 seconds. Then the referee comes in, and I get a second shot.
Yep.
So the referee protects me. The rules and the referee protect me. If we're wrestling, I get in on a single leg, and he goes into a sprawl. And from here, I just hold on, okay? If I can hold him in this position, he tries to go behind me, and I hold and hold. I'm not scoring on him, but he's not scoring on me. 5-10 seconds goes by, the referee's gonna separate us, and we're gonna go.
Yep.
What would happen in Jiu-Jitsu if I was like that? First minute of the match, I came out, I shot a single leg, he sprawled on me, and I just held on. How long do I have to hold on to?
You can hold it as long as it's on.
I gotta hold until 10 minutes is up.
Yeah.
The referee's not gonna come in to help you.
That was my main position.
I remember it well. If anybody. If I come in here and throw in Jiu-Jitsu, okay, there's no referee gonna come and help me. I put myself into a grave and I gotta dig my own way out. Okay? I've just put myself into a very vulnerable position. I've exposed my back to my opponent. No one ever talks about this. In Jiu-Jitsu, you have to learn how to recover from a failed throw, because we don't get the rules to help us, we don't get the referee to help us. Jiu-Jitsu punishes risk on takedowns. Judo and wrestling reward risk. The more risk you take in judo, the more the rules will protect you. You can expose your back knowing full well the referee will come in and intervene on your behalf and help you. In Jiu-Jitsu, whatever risk you take, it's on you now to get out. So we've got to have effective recovery strategies, takedown recovery strategies. So for example, if I came in for a failed seoi-nage, that's going to expose a lot of my back to my training partner. So as I come in on my training partner like so, I come in and it fails. From here, I've got to have an immediate bailout strategy. Okay, so for example, I'll come through to a shoulder and bring my legs back in between me and myself, my opponent, and knock him out of balance, come back up to the standing situation. Okay, you have to have effective recovery strategies. If I come in on an opponent with Ojigari and he goes in and steps out, okay, I have to be able to come back up to the standing position, recover by myself. I cannot come in and do this. Okay, no one's going to come and help you in Jiu-Jitsu.
Yep.
So the 10th great skill of Jiu-Jitsu standing, which is unique to the sport, takedown recovery. The onus is on you to recover from any failed takedown. Not the referee, not the rules. It's on you. So I talk about this a lot in volume 3, so feet to floor. If you don't have effective recovery strategies, what's going to happen to your confidence?
You're not going to try.
You're not even going to try.
No.
Because you're going to say to yourself, if I try seoi-nage, if it doesn't work, guy takes my back and strangles me, scores 4 points.
Yep.
You will only have confidence in your takedowns if you have good recovery strategies. Only then will you go in and try the takedowns.
Yeah.
So we talk a lot about how you're going to recover from a failed takedown in the sport of Jiu-Jitsu. How you're going to get around the problems of back explosion. And if you have this, you'll have the confidence to go out and try your takedowns. But if you're getting scored on, strangled every time you try a takedown, you're just going to come out and pull guard next time.
Yeah.
And say, dude, I lost my last 3 tournaments trying takedowns, getting scored on, or strangled. You're going to stop trying. Okay, so you've got to have effective ways of scoring. So volume 3 of Feet to Floor covers these unique skills of Jiu-Jitsu in the standing position, skills that don't even really exist in other standing grappling styles or are underemphasized. There's an ocean of possibilities out there. Jiu-Jitsu standing position is so much more than just learning some takedowns.
Yeah.
This is uncharted territory for Jiu-Jitsu, and the new generation of Jiu-Jitsu players are going to be like the current generation who are going into the whole leg lock world and revolutionizing the sport. The next generation of players are going to be guys who go into the standing position in Jiu-Jitsu and chart this fascinating new territory, these 10 skills of the standing position, and take advantage of all 10 rather than just learning one, the standing takedown game. Okay?
Yeah.
And I think we can really radically transform Jiu-Jitsu.
I agree. No, the first volume and second volume was already a huge success.
Yeah.
And now
I think people are starting to see the possibilities in front of them.
Yeah.
There's a sense in which Jiu-Jitsu is, with the standing game, is kind of like Jiu-Jitsu was in 2003 to 2005 with leg locks. There was this ocean of possibilities, and then suddenly you had some people coming out most of whom were my students, who started to show, hey, this stuff really works in competition.
Yeah.
And 3 or 4 years from now, you're going to get an exciting new brand of jiu-jitsu athletes who come out, and when they pull guard, they're scoring 2 points.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, John, and I think like even this what IBJJF just did right now, like allowing the heel hooks in the no-gi.
Yes.
It's a result of what happened since the leg lock video, because everybody's doing heel hooks right now. You go watch like an ADCC rules tournament, everybody's literally trying to heel hook each other. So
no,
even IBJJF had to do a move towards that, because
I think it was a smart move on their part.
Yeah, I agree.
And it was a sign of the time, so to speak. And you know, I said this before and I'll say it again, Bernardo, we changed jiu-jitsu positively with leg locks. We took one of the great weaknesses of jiu-jitsu and now it's become its strength.
Yeah.
Why can't we do the same with standing position?
I agree.
And when you see, there's so much more than just learning a few random takedowns. Dude, there's 10 distinct skills in the standing position. If you master all of those 10, you're going to be a formidable opponent. You come up against a guy who's got better takedowns than you, pull him straight into a submission hold. He might have better takedowns than you, just have better submissions than you. Pull him straight into a guard sweep. If you feel he's better than you on the ground, hit him with a takedown early, get 2 points up, defend that lead, you'll win the match. You become so much more of a multifaceted jiu-jitsu player. There's an ocean of possibilities out there for future generations of jiu-jitsu players. I said this is exciting times in jiu-jitsu. If we can cure, we have cured, I believe, the weakness of leg locks. If we can cure the weakness of the standing position, this sport will be immeasurably better 10 years from now.
And John, everything you were teaching here, I pretty much saw myself on my career, because the fact that you counter when someone pulls guard, that was the whole reason that I started doing wrestling, because I would always try to stay low for when someone to pull guard, I fall right on my favorite pass.
Interesting.
And what you said about like pulling guard, going direct to a sweep, that was my whole half grip game, because I would always pull, controlling both hands in the lapel to make sure that I would fall in the half grip doing the single leg. And also what you said about the counter of the takedown, like I would always start with a double leg, because if I fail, I could go to the half grip. So it's very interesting that you were teaching everything that I was doing, and I didn't even know that I was doing that. So that called my attention already.
Interesting. There's a long section in volume 3 on pulling half guard strategies, going directly into half guard sweeps. I would love to see you doing that sometime. Would have been fascinating to watch. But there's this idea, the central idea of volume 3 of Feet to Floor. There's just so much more to the standing game in jiu-jitsu than just learning basic takedowns from the front. And unfortunately, that's the way it's been taught for generations. We've got to change this. There's so many possibilities for future students. If they work with the full breadth of jiu-jitsu skills, they can develop a multifaceted approach where they can pull guard in a revolutionary fashion, where they're using it as an aggressive scoring part of the game rather than just a passive acceptance of defeat. They're countering guard pulls rather than just be like, guy pulls guard, just go down to the floor and work down on the mat. No, see it as for what it is. It's an opportunity to score. Standing submissions. Guy's better at takedowns than you, pull him directly into a submission hold. Take him out of his element. Takedown recovery, okay? If you fully believe that every time you fail with a takedown, and let's be honest, if you attempt 10 takedowns against someone your own size and skill level, probably 6 of them are going to fail, 7 are going to fail. If you can recover without getting scored on, you'll keep trying the takedowns. Okay, but if you don't have those recovery strategies, you're going to get scored on. You're going to stop doing your takedowns. You're going to lose your confidence. Mat returns. Okay, it's not enough just to take people down. You got to be able to keep them down. That's a whole skill in itself. We've got to be able to do mat returns from not only the back, the way they do in wrestling, but also from the front. We've got to be able to stop someone from hoisting up from guard position. That's a skill in itself. So there's all these unique skills that go far beyond just learning a few basic takedowns. And when future generations of jiu-jitsu students learn these, man, this sport's going to be an exciting sport to watch.
I agree. No, I agree 1,000,000%. Yeah. So guys, we just shot the entire instruction about the volume 3 of the Feet to Floor, which is the last one, right?
Yeah,
It's a short series, only 3 instructions for this series. And it came out really, really good. And it's going to be at bjjfanatics.com soon. Maybe by the time you're watching, it's already there. And thanks so much, John. Amazing as always.
Thank you. Thanks, Giancarlo. Thank you.
Please help me out to grow my YouTube channel. Just click subscribe. And to watch more videos, just click under see more videos. I hope you enjoyed.
BJJFanatics.com. Use the promo code YouTubeFaria to get 10% off any instructional video. Improve your jiu-jitsu faster.